Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. I'm Pinky Webb. Today on the program, a Filipino-American engineer makes history as he took part in the successful landing of NASA's Perseverance rover in Mars. Buckle up as we get to know his journey. NASA engineer Gregorio Villar III joins us live. And first on CNN Philippines, Ballet Philippines showcases the dance video Limang Daan, marking the 500th year since Ferdinand Magellan's conquest. And we also take a look at some of the Philippine art and antiques that will be displayed in the first major Salcedo auction for this year. Salcedo Auctions director Richie Lerma tells us more live. Definitely a source of Filipino pride. A Filipino-American engineer made headlines when he was recognized to be part of the team in making sure that NASA's Perseverance rover lands safely in Mars. According to the NASA website, he spent the past 7.5 years in ensuring that the Perseverance would make a safe landing into the red planet by building and testing a system for it. But what did it take to be part of this historic mission? Let's go straight to the source of the story. We have entry, descent, and landing system engineer for NASA's Mars 2020 mission, Gregorio Villar III. Gregorio, first of all, congratulations to you. And I have to say it again, there was so much excitement and so much pride when the U.S. Embassy actually tweeted a photo of you and said this. Did you know that Philam engineer Gregorio Villar helped with its safe landing as the entry, descent, landing systems engineer of Mars 2020? What exactly is an entry, descent, landing systems engineer?
Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of teams that work on the Perseverance rover. There are people who build the rover, there are people who launch the rover, there are people who fly the rover to Mars, and there are people who land the rover on Mars. And so when we land the rover, we enter through the atmosphere, that's the entry. We descend through the atmosphere on a parachute, that's descent. And then touchdown is landing. So entry, descent, and landing is a team that's responsible for getting the rover from space to the ground safely on Mars. And I'm very fortunate to be part of that team.
And how big is this team that we're talking about, this entry, descent, and landing group?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it is just an amazing team to be on. I mean, look at the footage that we got from Mars. This is the first time we ever got anything like this. And it's really quite an accomplishment.
And here we are coming down.
How many people would you say were involved in this project? Just very interesting to know. In this whole project, how many were you? And were there other Filipino Americans involved as well?
Absolutely. You know, when people look at these videos, they see like 20, 50 people in a room, but there's in fact thousands of engineers and scientists in different rooms making this happen over 10 years or so. There were actually other Filipinos in that room that you see. I had a colleague, her name is Genevieve Viang. She is also Filipino. And I also have a colleague, Ed Gonzalez. He was one of the testing engineers for the rover as well. So there are a couple of us Filipinos that worked on the project as well.
Were you in that particular room? Is that the monitoring systems room?
So I was not in that room. I was in another room where you saw my picture. I was in a place called the EDL War Room, the Entry, Descent, and Landing War Room, where most of the entry, descent, and landing team were located.
I see.
The main room that you saw there was some of our team members, but also the people who helped fly the rover to Mars and some management. But like I said, the entry, descent, and landing team, there's probably like 50 or more of us. So we all couldn't fit in the main room.
I see. There you are. Okay. So I needed to ask you this, Gregorio. What Why was it called Perseverance Rover?
Well, the name is so fitting, but the history is that for the past few Mars missions, about a week or so before, or sorry, in the year of launching it, we have a contest for elementary students to name the rover. And so students from around the world submit an essay proposing a name and why they think that should be the name of the next Mars mission. And so we chose one that selected Perseverance, and it was such a fitting name, especially during the pandemic where we all persevered to get this rover off of Earth and land it safely on Mars.
And this is where I want to take us back to what we saw was a video from your Instagram account. This was the rocket launch last August. Let's just play a portion of that.
Oh my god. That's crazy. Right. Oh my god. Oh my god. That's insane. Holy. Oh my god. Let's go.
Seeing it on video as opposed to someone like you actually seeing this. Tell us what was that like?
Oh, that was unbelievable. I've been working at NASA for over 10 years, and surprisingly, I've never seen a rocket launch. So when I knew that we were launching from Florida last summer, I just had to make it out there. And it was completely worth it because, we went to Florida. I drove on base at nighttime the night before launch. And even miles away, you could see the rocket lit up by light in the dark from the distance. And it was so exciting just as I got closer and closer to the rocket. And when I finally got there, I was by myself and I was just looking at this rocket that the rover was in the night before. And even better was the next day when we watched this rocket launch. Because I'm an employee, I got on base and I was just about a mile down, as you can see in this video. And when I first saw it, it's like a little small dot of light. And that small dot of light quickly became a really bright fireball, followed by the smoke. And the sound came in like 10 seconds later. And so it was really quite a surreal experience just seeing an actual rocket launch that's going to Mars.
Yeah. I want to talk about later on the images that you saw, something maybe you can better explain to us. But Gregorio, I was able to interview him prior to going on air. So you studied in San Agustin for prep, and then you went to the
That's right.
States, you went to Long Beach, and then for high school, you came back and you studied in Baguio. Tell us more about that.
Right. So I think I was about 13 years old when I moved back to Baguio City, and my parents put me into St. Louis University Laboratory High School, or what was known at the time as Boys High. And it was quite an adjustment for me growing up mostly in the US. Filipino was really hard subject for me. And so it was hard to adjust just being the new person, the new kid. I was like one of the shortest kids there, everyone teasing me. So it was a struggle at first, but over 2 years or so, we all kind of grown as a brotherhood and everyone kind of accepted each other. And I ended up doing really well, except for Filipino. I never got Filipino down, pero marunong pa ako magtagalog ng konti. But the subject I did not do well in.
Dapat matuto ka talaga magtagalog.
Opo,
It's
syempre.
such a beautiful language, Gregorio. But anyway, so ito
It
ito
is.
talaga yung was this real, tinagalog tuloy kita. This was really your dream. I mean, how long ago, how young were you when you said, I want to be part of NASA? And I'm sure that was so, tell us the challenges that you had to go through.
Oh, right. You're right. Ever since I was maybe 8 years old, all the nerds love Star Trek and Star Wars. And one of my favorite movies is like Independence Day that stars Will Smith. And when he goes into space and just sees the blanket of stars, he says that he's been waiting for this all his life. So growing up, all these movies really inspired me to work in space. And, I was really good at math and I love science. So that's what I kind of pursued throughout my career. But it was challenging because in college, even though I thought I was good in math, I did get an F in one of my classes at the end of a quarter. Like on my report card, it says F. But I persevered out of that and retook the class and just kept going. And when I was taking an entrance exam for physics grad school, I did really bad. I think I was in the bottom 10% at the time. And maybe that meant it just wasn't for me, right? Maybe physics wasn't for me. And that led me to engineering. And I did well in engineering, got my master's in astronautical engineering, and ended up working at NASA.
Yeah. Interesting, very interesting. Imagine somebody who loves math and science and eventually fails in science. Sorry, in math at one point in high school. So that must have been in Baguio. So, all right. So then you moved on, you joined NASA. What's next for you? What do you want to accomplish next? I mean, you're relatively young.
That's a tough question. I mean, I've worked on 2 Mars rovers now, and I've been at NASA for about 10 years. So right now I'm just focusing on resting. It's been a long 8 years on Perseverance. But after that, there's a lot of missions still that we still have to do. Perseverance right now is going to collect some samples, and we are starting on the next mission that will bring the samples back. So maybe I'll work on that, maybe not. But I've also applied to the astronaut program, which is also really hard to go through. But I haven't heard back yet, and hopefully one day maybe I'll hear back about astronaut training. We'll see. But I'm just mostly focusing on resting now that we've done this amazing thing that you're watching right now.
Yeah. So before we go, I want you to please explain to someone like me, all our viewers, what are we seeing? Tell us more about these images.
Yeah. So what we're watching is what we did to land a car-sized rover on the planet Mars. When we're traveling to Mars and the rover gets there, it's traveling at 12,000 miles an hour. And so we need to slow that down using things like the parachute, as you see here. And after the parachute, we come down on a jetpack. So later in the images, you'll see that the rover is actually on a jetpack flying down to the surface of Mars. And the jetpack lowers the rover on cables. And that's what we call sky crane. And it's super cool because you can see in these videos kind of the jets of the jetpack kind of kick up dust from the ground. And then in one of the videos, you also see that when the rover gets lowered to the ground, the jetpack flies away. And you can see that from the videos that's on the screen here.
Gregorio, what are the images that are most telling to you?
I've been working on this landing system for 8 years, and these videos, it can't go underappreciated. We've never seen any footage like this ever in history. And look at these videos, like this is just rockets kicking up dust on the ground. And to see this actual whole system work on Mars is really fulfilling because we've never even done that completely on Earth, right? It's hard to do it on Earth because Earth is different than Mars. And we only really have one shot to do this, which is on the planet Mars. So it's really hard to tell you how big these videos and images are of the landing.
All right. Very nice to speak to you, and we're rooting for you. Tell us more. It'd be nice to see you when you come back to the Philippines and visit. Thank you, and congratulations
Absolutely.
to you, Gregorio
Thank you so much.
Villar III. And of course, good luck.
Thank you.
And coming up first on CNN Philippines, a look at Ballet Philippines tribute in marking the 500 years of Christianity in the Philippines. And also the upcoming major Salcedo auctions showcasing Philippine art and antiques.